Oh man, you guys. Well, where do I even begin here on the Clark the Shark show? I got to talk about this incredible album, Winds of Change. Eric Burden and the New Animals, 1967. Um, Man, what a recording. Now, this album takes some abuse over the years from fans, critics, everybody. But Clark the Shark here, right here on the Clark the Shark show, I'm going to give you the official opinion of this album. And I'm going to give you the correct, accurate review, if you will, of this amazing album. This thing is so good, you guys. And it is so true. And Eric Burden, God bless him, he went on after the Animals, the real Animals, Valentine and Chaz Chandler, all those guys. Of course, that band that I love in the beginning. They didn't always write their own songs, you guys, but the way they conveyed and portrayed the music was, it couldn't be topped. It was first rate. Eric Burden was never this incredible, great songwriter. He wasn't Pete Townsend or Frank Zappa or, David Bowie or John Lennon or any of those. He was Eric Burden. And sometimes he does nail it, you guys. Sporadically throughout his whole career, going back to the original Animals in the early days, you guys. Now, a lot of people are unhappy that he continued the group without the group. And me too, Clark the Shark. I have my reservations about that. I'm always like, why, Eric, would you... first of all, the album Eric is here before this album, where it's just all cover songs, and you're like, what? Why is he doing it? It's actually a pretty good album listening wise, but the cover thing, you're just like, dude, you're Eric Burden, at least, come on, man. And so this album, Winds of Change, is largely an original album. And thank God, because it is incredible, you guys. Eric Burden seems very disillusioned and unhappy here on this album. And I mean on every single song. It's almost introspective and way ahead of its time. This album was a real downer, back in the Summer of Love days. Eric Burden, of course, was at Monterey Pop. And this album just cast a real downer of a shadow on the scene. And yet, you know what? It is totally accurate, you guys. There's something about the feeling of this album. And I remember being in the 60s, even though I was just 5 years old, 4, 3, 2, 1, there was this tension that lasted all the way through, like I'd say 1972 when I was 7. You could feel it, man. It was like you could cut it with a knife. I was just a little kid, and you could feel that something was wrong with America. Something was wrong with the whole world, you guys, in the 60s. And this album really somehow captures that on every track. Even though a lot of people say it's pretentious or it's trying too hard, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I think it isn't. I think this album captures something. And this is an album I listen to, the whole album. When I'm taking a hot bath, I will listen to this whole entire album. And gosh, I don't think there's anything else in the 1960s that captures this misery, this unhappy something's wrong with the world. This album just, it's not a groovy hippie thing here, you guys. This is a real bummer. This is a real depressing downer of an album. And yet it isn't. It's hopeful in some weird, twisted way. It's looking to the future. It really is Winds of Change. Eric Burdon and the New Animals. And me, Clark the Shark, I am a purist. I love the old Animals, Hilton, Valentine, Chaz Chandler, Eric Burdon. That's the group I love, you guys. And I want to hate the New Animals. I always have, as long as I can remember in my life, and I can't. Now, of course, the way the Animals broke up, the original Animals, something happened where they went over to Japan and, they were nearly killed by the Yakuza, and just all this weird stuff happened. And then the band broke up, and, I guess some of them were unhappy with Eric Burdon, and he was unhappy with the band. And rather than form just a new name, and, just a fresh slate, like Jimmy Page did with Led Zeppelin, Out of the Yardbirds, Eric Burdon decided, I'm going to keep the name The Animals. And that has always been a real sticking point of, whether you agree or disagree. Most people disagree, including me, Clark the Shark. I would have preferred maybe a whole new band, a whole new name. But Eric Burdon might have known something that all of us didn't know when he did this, you guys, because when I grew up, I didn't really know what happened, and I always thought the Animals in 1964 were still the Animals in 1968, 69, and all that. So maybe that was the plan, to, kind of blur the lines and muddy the waters. But of course, over time, we all learned that this was an entirely different Animals here. And it became like a cancer in our brain or something, like we couldn't get around it. And a lot of us got really pissed off at Eric Burdon for this. And, me, Clark the Shark, I am even to this day, and yet I accept this. And this album is so good. It's such a watershed, groundbreaking piece of breakthrough shit here, you guys. And it really captures accurately that 1967 thing better than anything, better than the Grateful Dead or any of that, maybe even better than like the Jefferson Airplane or Country Joe and the Fish, or everything, out of San Francisco or LA or England at the time. This album has something in it that other albums don't have. Like it or not, for better or for worse, take it or leave it, there's something here, you guys. Winds of Change. Eric Burdon and the New Animals. I hate to call this the Animals, you guys, but I have to. And somehow it just captures something. I don't care what the stars say. I know it's going to get a 2, or I didn't even look yet, you guys. I guarantee you, let's see what it gets. All Music, 2.5. Encyclopedia Pop Music, 3. It's getting 3s, you guys. That's better than I thought it would get. I thought this would get 1, 2, 2.5. 3 would be about what I would expect, though. But me, Clark the Shark, I give this thing a 5. And out of 10, I give it like a 9.6, you guys. It's an incredible album, you guys. Side 1, Winds of Change. Well, you just got to hear it. It's a groovy, psychedelic, twisted, more accurate than the Beatles, Tomorrow Never Knows, Winds of Change, you guys. It's just a psychedelic journey, but it's not really happy. It's a downer. And then Poem by the Sea kind of picks up, out of Winds of Change. And you are unhappy after these first 2 songs. You're not feeling good about the Summer of Love or Flower Power or 1967. But your feeling is truly accurate, because the Vietnam War, the LBJ in the White House sort of propagating this war that the military industrial complex so badly wanted, and the contracts and contractors or whatever, whoever wanted this war. I agree with the Vietnam War, but we should have just bombed the shit out of them. Putting our guys in there and saying, oh, Russia, China, we'll take you on. You're going to put guys. We'll put guys. Well, we lost 60,000 guys in that war, and you can really feel it in these first two songs. It's just really negative and unhappy, and oh God, it captures unhappiness, and in a weird way, it's a downer. It's like not really melodic, but it's really atmospheric. And you just feel like shit when you listen to these first two songs on side one. And then, of course, Painted Black, the Stones cover. The New Animals probably do the best version of that. They change it all around and they make it such a downer. It's so unhappy. And then they play it at Monterey, with the violins and everything. And it's just so not groovy. Eric Burdon really threw himself into that Summer of Love, that psychedelia thing, and yet he didn't. He was this force of evil, like unhappy misery there. He tried to be part of all the groovy vibe and feeling at Monterey, but he wasn't, because he's the blues, man. Eric Burdon is he's a short little guy. You could tell he's got little man syndrome, but not really. He's just this little guy, kind of like Clark the Shark, and he barks the blues, you guys. He barks it out and he means it. And Painted Black is just his statement. Almost like the Stones wrote the song for him to change around the arrangement and add the negative violin. And oh God, but they're 3 for 3, you guys, on side one. They're batting 1,000. I mean, if you want to feel miserable, unhappy in a psychedelic way, dude, you have found the album. And of course, the Black Plague with just the bell, where it rings this bell and he weaves this spoken word poem through it. I get like a Yardbirds vibe, like Keith Relf, but no, it's even more real than that. It's more miserable. And oh God, you just got to hear the Black Plague. What a song. It's incredible, you guys. Side one is amazing. It should all be lit up in blue. And Yes, I Am Experienced, kind of like a little rock tune at the end. Not really melodic, but it definitely is atmospheric, you guys. Once again, it's trying, I don't know if it's trying to cure side one, but not really. It continues with the miserable, unhappy downer of depression. And side two gets really fucking incredible, you guys. San Francisco Nights is like, it doesn't fit in on the album in a perfect good way. I love that song, you guys. Even though a lot of people hate it, they're like, what is Eric Burdon doing with San Francisco Nights? And, all is, brick in the wall. With this album, it doesn't really go with the album, and yet it fits in some way I can't explain. I can't put my finger on it, you guys, but it's a hit song that we all love. Even though, you're like, dude, what about the old original Animals, man? Like, Eric, what are you doing? I don't know, you guys. I love it. I love that song, San Francisco Nights. Old cop. Dude. Good cop, bad cop. Feel all right, dude. Back in the 60s, all cops, dude. Nobody trusted them. The cops were trying to do this makeover, their image, or they were all down in Monterey, like, look at us, we're trying to be happy, you guys, and put a smile on it. But it was a negative time, guys. Bad. The war, Vietnam, all the violence in the streets of America, the Black Power movement. It was all beautiful, you guys. And It was fucking groovy, man. I would have loved to have been there. But then again, maybe not, dude. It was very violent, the 60s, that war. But something about this song, San Franciscan Nights, it captures something. Maybe it doesn't capture it accurately or perfectly. I don't know, but man, woman, once again, Eric Burdon with his spoken word. It's awesome, the spoken word, just the negative or positive or whatever it is, you guys. He's just doing it, and it's right or it's wrong. I just want you to buy this album. I want you to hear this incredible album, you guys. Hotel Hell. Possibly my favorite song on the album, 446. All of it. Side 2. Side 2 gets really interesting here, you guys. And of course, the last 3 songs are really good. Good Times, where it's very confessional, where he's like, all that drinking, he did with the early Animals. He was really losing, like me. Sharky. I thought I was having good times with all that drinking back in the 80s. In the early 90s, but it was really losing, you guys. It wasn't good times at all. And Anything, what a song, Anything. Awesome. Just the nice guitar sounds, I like the fact that this album is all original and Eric Burdon is in the middle of it. I'm going to review the next album too, because they get even better, you guys. And it's all meat, It's just telling it like it is, you guys. The bookends, like the end song on this album, it's all meat, Not really melodic, you guys, but accurate. You even get like a sort of a punk rock, proto-punk like vibe off this whole album. I'm sure Henry Rollins loves the spoken word on this, you guys. You know me, Clark the Shark. I fucking love spoken word, and I love Eric Burdon for this album. It just tells it like it is, like it or not, you guys. Take it or leave it. And these bonus tracks, of course, you guys. When I Was Young is such a great song. I don't think it's on any album. When I was young... Doodaloo, 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 doo. Girl named Sandos. Oh, dude. It's all great. I love this song, Grateful Dead. It almost seems like Eric Burdon is mocking the scene, kind of like Frank Zappa, dude. A little different, but that from the Zappa type mockery. But Eric Burdon, you could tell he wasn't really accepted into Flower Power. I don't think he means to mock it, you guys, but it's his way of interpreting the times. The winds of change, you guys. What an incredible album. What a journey. This album will make you cry because it's just so fucking groovy, you guys. And it more accurately represents the Vietnam times, the late 60s. And you guys, it does, you guys. 1967, what a groovy fucking year. I love all the music, the Supremes and, the Who Sell Out and, the Box Tops and Zappa and the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper. But there's something about Winds of Change, Eric Burdon, and the New Animals that captures something nobody else captured. And nobody else wanted to capture, you guys. Everyone was like afraid of this album because it's dark and it's satanic and it's miserable. It's confused. It doesn't even know what it wants to do. It's not even sure if it wants to be happy or sad or miserable or accurate. Critics called it pretentious, but it isn't, you guys. This album is not pretentious at all. This album is true. And only Eric Burdon and the Animals, the New Animals, could have told this story, you guys. This, whatever this is. I don't even know what it is, you guys. And that's why I love it. because me, Clark the Shark, you know, when I grew up in Redondo Beach and Torrance back in the 80s, I would listen to this album probably more than any other album. To me, this represented 1967, and yet it didn't. It was like it stood out like a sore thumb of something that didn't fit in. And yet it was because it was the scene, you guys. This was the real truth of the unhappy America at the time that was trying to be happy. Everyone was trying to drop acid and smoke weed and do mushrooms. They weren't sure what they were doing, dude, but they hated that war in Vietnam. I hate it too. And yet, you know, America, you know, the military industrial complex, it has to do its thing. Right now, our government, you guys, even in 2023, it's doing things that you don't even know it's doing still. Maybe not even the Pentagon, maybe not even the deep state, even deeper. And it's almost like Eric Burdon knew everything, and the New Animals knew it all with this album, you guys, with this dark, evil, twisted spoken word, these poems, the whole album. The way it fucks with your head, it fucks with your mind. It's like really dark and miserable. And then it's like, on a warm San Francisco night, young cop, old cop, feel all right. Dude, it doesn't want to feel all right. It's fucking with you. It wants to feel bad, and it wants to feel terrible, because that's the only way you can really feel in the late 60s. And this album really establishes that, you guys. It is the winds of change. Eric Burdon and the New Animals, and I'm not sure if the old Animals could have done this album. I often wonder what would have the original Animals sounded like if they tried to change and they tried to adapt to the late 60s. You know, maybe Eric Burdon knew. He's like, hey, Shock, they couldn't do it, man. I had to go do it with the New Animals. You might be right, Eric, but we'll never know now, you guys, right here on the Clark the Shark Show. But if you're a young person and you really want to learn about 1967, you guys, I want you to go right here to this album. I want you to go to Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, and buy this fucking groovy psychedelic album that is so much more psychedelic than Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles, or Freak Out by Zappa, or anything, dude, more fucking accurate than the Stones' Satanic Majesties. And that album is pretty fucking accurate, you guys. More accurate than the Jefferson Airplane, and I fucking love the Airplane and the Dead and Country Joe and the Fish and Mama Cass and all that shit and all the underground psychedelia that never quite made it up to the charts. But there's something about Winds of Change, Eric Burdon and the New Animals, that will never be duplicated, you guys, because the cultural circumstances of 1967 will never happen again, you guys. There will never be another late 60s or another 1967 or another Vietnam or just another race riots and, you know, just those times. And this album encapsulates all of it better than anything, better than Zappa, better than the Beatles. I don't know how. Don't ask me how, dude. And even Eric Burdon himself might disagree. He might be like, Shock, my album is crap. And I'll be like, no, it isn't, Eric. You got to listen again. Go back and listen to your own album, dude. You captured it and you didn't even know it. You accidentally nailed it all with this album. He'll be like, really, Shock? You think so? I'll be like, Eric, dude, you fucking did it, and you didn't even know you did it. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, you guys, I want you to buy Winds of Change, Eric Burdon and the New Animals. I can't even believe I'm saying that, you guys. That's like a travesty. That is like a blasphemy, considering the old Animals. You know, I want to hate this album, you guys, but I can't. I can't fucking do it. And in fact, I want you to buy this album and everything by Eric Burdon and the New Animals, because it was just meant to be. Don't ask me how or why. I can't put my finger on it, you guys. Why this album is so incredible, and how and why this album accurately represents and portrays everything in the movement, in the moment, at the time, 1967. And the next album and the next album after that would continue the Eric Burdon saga, you guys. This man was amazing. He would literally patch together these albums, you guys. Don't ask me how. And he would kick out the one guy who is so incredible, you know. But maybe it was all just meant to be, you know, just like me, Clark the Shark. You can't figure it out, you guys. Maybe it's weird how my music is so huge now on the internet, and everyone, not just in the South Bay or Los Angeles, but all around the world, they're like, who the fuck is this Clark the Shark? He is accurate. I don't know if I am accurate, you guys, but I'm just like a rhythm. I'm like an algorithm that represents, and I can't figure it out. I can't put my finger on me, Clark the Shark. I'm kind of like Eric Burdon. I don't know what I'm doing. I throw shit at the wall and I see what sticks, and even if it doesn't stick, I pick it up and I fucking throw it again, you guys. But I can't do it like Eric Burdon and this album. Listen to spoken word artists, you guys, and go back and learn about all the jazz festivals and all the folk festivals and, you know, the Newport Folk Festival, and learn about those people. Even if you agree or disagree with the 60s, I disagree with the liberalism, but there's something about Joan Baez and everybody, you know, Eric Burdon and Bob Dylan and Donovan, and even the underground artists who never really made it in the 60s. They were all trying to communicate something, for better or for right, for richer or for poorer, for right or wrong. It'll never be duplicated again, man. What a groovy, fucking amazing time. For better or for worse, you guys. We didn't get to live through fucking quality times like the 60s, late 60s, even the early 60s. The way it changed. Go rent that movie Dogfight with River Phoenix. What a movie. The way the world changed. The winds of change. Fuck, man, Eric Burdon. The way the world changed, you guys. Fucking incredible. Incredible how it went from people listening to Sugar Shack, you know, dude, and, you know, Richie Valens, and then all of a sudden the Stooges, and, you know, first the Standells, and then, you know, fucking the Count Five and the Music Machine and the Haunted, and then Eric Burdon, the Winds of Change, and then Steppenwolf and Zeppelin and the Stooges and Black Sabbath and the Who live at Leeds. I love it all, dude. The Winds of Change. What a time. I was born in 1965, right in the fucking middle of it, you guys. And that's probably why you come to me. You come to Clark the Shark because you're like, this fucking guy, this motherfucker was born in 1965, April 27, the day Martin Luther King gave that speech at UCLA. That was the fucking motherfucking day I was born, you guys. And then I grew to write Hey Negrita and White Black and Star and Ben is Dead and all those fucking songs. It Ain't Easy. Dude, Brandy, She's a Bitch and Then You Live, you guys. Like it or not, I fucking tell it like it is. And I want to be like Eric Burdon. But I can't fucking do it. I can't capture it. Neither can Henry Rollins. Neither can punk rock. in the South Bay. None of us can capture what Eric Burdon, and he thought this album sucked, you guys. He thought he wasn't capturing it, and he fucking accidentally was, you guys. What a fucking amazing time. I would have loved to have been at Monterey Pop. I would have loved to have been at the Newport folk festivals. I would have fucking loved it, you guys. The Seekers, Judy Collins, dude, Joan Baez, Donovan. Just a bunch of fucking liberals, man, and I fucking love them. I hate liberalism, you guys. I hate Democrats. I'm a conservative, dude, but there's something about them that I love, too. They try to change shit, dude. The Beatles, I don't like John Lennon's beliefs or his politics or Paul McCartney. I fucking hate those guys. But there's something about them that I love that they can do that I can't do. There's something that Hannity and Hush Bimbo and Tucker and me, Clark the Shark, we can't do that liberals do, you guys. And then it hits me. We are all one. We all want the white picket fence. Dude, we all want the same thing. Eric Burdon fucking wanted what we all want, dude. We just want a gallon of milk that we can afford, and we all just want rent that we can fucking afford. We have different ways, dude. Like liberals are all, let's just tax the rich people and get Section 8 so that Sharky can afford a fucking place. And I'm like, dude, well, just make the fucking rent low and make a law that rent has to be low. But can't you see we all want to afford to go to McDonald's or go to Burger King or just have the white picket fence? The liberals want it, and Hannity wants it. The Grateful Dead wants it, and Joan Baez wants it. Donovan wants it, and Henry Rollins wants it, and Iggy Pop wants it, and David Bowie wants it. Zeppelin wants it, and the Beatles want it. You know, the Count Five wanted it, and the Standells fucking wanted it. Eric Burdon wanted it, you guys. The Animals wanted it. Chaz Chandler, Hilton Valentine, and the New Animals too, the violin fucking guy. We all want the white picket fence. We are all the same, you guys. Like it or not, dude. You know, if you're pro-choice or pro-gay, you think you're controlling population. I know what you liberals think. But you're just trying to do in a different way what Clark the Shark wants to do. You groovy fucking people, dude. I love you. Because I am you and you are me, and we are all together. See how they run like pigs from a gun. See how they snide. I'm crying. Yellow matter custard dripping from a dead shark's eye. Pornographic priestess, stupid bloody Sunday man. You let your fucking knickers down. Knicker elastic. Dude, it's like the Ruddle said, you guys. The one fucking guy was the knicker elastic king. He fucking made money selling knickers. And we all know woman is the knicker of the world. That's what Ron Nasty said. That's what Dirk McQuickley meant when he put out that album. He meant the Ruttles were bigger than Rod, not God. I hope you forgive John Lennon, Lord up there in heaven. He meant, you know, the Beatles were bigger than Jesus in a bad way, Lord. He didn't mean in a good way. He meant the people are so stupid. They went crazy during Beatlemania, and they forgot, you know, the focus, and the Beatles were bigger than Jesus. That's what John meant. And the Lord's like, I know, Clark, I know what you all mean, because I know your heart. And he's like, but even I, the Lord, I'm blown away at Eric Burdon, this fucking poet genius, talking about the Black Plague and all this shit that was so unhappy and miserable on this album, but so accurate. One of my favorite albums of all time. If you're a young person, you're just 20 years old, you were born in 2003, I want you to go buy this fucking album right now, and you tell them that fucking Clark the Shark sent you. Pick up Winds of Change by Eric Burdon and the New Animals. Pick up all the Animals, the whole saga, the early House of the Rising Sun, all of it, you guys. When I was young, my faith was so much stronger then. Shark believed in fellow men, and I had quite a ball when I was young. When Shark was young, it was more important. Dude, that song isn't even on this album, you guys. And this album is still fucking incredible. What a time. Get this album, you guys. It's amazing. And if you die, I hope you go back to the 60s. I hope you don't get drafted, dude. I hope the Lord teleports you back to that groovy fucking time where we all want the same thing on the right and the left. We all just want to tell our poem, man. We all mean the same thing. We all want the white picket fence, you guys. We want to be happy and have 2.4 kids. We don't want people picking on us. We just fucking want to get our story out there. And I hope you get your story out there too, right here on the Clark the Shark Show. I love you, groovy people, for fucking ever. And I'm out of here. Peace.